Welcome everyone back to the 606. We are your hosts, SES Vince and Basharat. Bosh, how you doing, my man? How's it going?
I'm doing good. A little cracked out from like being up in the weird hours and then
Yeah.
trying to catch up with like a flurry of insanity that happened all day of like major and minor deals just left
hmm
and right. I'm not even
Yeah.
sure. Did Dennis Schroeder, is he still in the NBA? Did he get traded to the Euro League? What is going on there? Like
He's playing for the Shanghai Sharks at this point, if I'm not mistaken.
we got Dwight Howard back in the NBA from there.
Yeah. He somehow made it back into the NBA. Yeah, dude, there's been
Yeah,
so much.
so much for like disappointing trade deadlines, huh?
Oh no. I mean, the title of the episode is "Nothing Ever Happens at the Trade Deadline," and 9 times out of 10, there's nothing that really happens at the deadline. Nothing big usually happens. We've kind of like grown to expect that more towards like the draft or free agency. That's usually where things heat up a little bit more. But this year it didn't disappoint. We had a lot of
Or
major
even
trades.
recently with the big trades, they happen like KD a couple
hmm
years ago. It'd be like a few days or a week before the deadline. Like
Oh
Luca
yeah,
happened.
yeah,
Luca
yeah,
happened like 4 days before, and you
yeah. The
would think
weekend.
like, okay,
Yeah, I was I was watching the Royal Rumble, the WWE Royal Rumble, and then like an hour or two later, boom, Luka Doncic gets traded, and then I can't sleep the rest of the night.
yeah.
Speaking of Luka Doncic, he is the big name that got moved. Shout out to Nico Harrison, you beautiful man, for giving us content. Let's look at the notable names that were dealt before the 2025 NBA trade deadline. We have Jimmy Butler, Anthony Davis, Luka Doncic. Obviously, they were traded for each other. De'Aaron Fox, DeAndre Hunter, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Zach Levine, Chris Middleton, and Mark Williams. I had no idea who Mark Williams was prior to this. I mean, I knew
Poor
who he was,
poor
but I
Bo-
knew of him in terms. I wasn't
poor
familiar with
Bogdan
your game.
Bogdanovic, man. He got bumped off the list by Mark Williams.
Yeah. Like Shaq famously once said, "My apologies, I wasn't familiar with your game." But who someone's game that I was familiar with because he spent so many years here in Chicago and was drafted by Chicago is Jimmy Butler. The Jimmy Butler saga is over, finito, finished. Bosh, we have a resolution. Jimmy Butler is heading over to the Golden State Warriors. Andrew Wiggins, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, and a protected first round pick. We're going to the Miami Heat. Obviously, Dennis Schroeder got rerouted to a bunch of different teams. I don't know if while I keep describing this, maybe you can look up all the teams he got traded to.
I've
While I do
tried.
this,
I don't think I haven't been able to keep up. Last I
Kyle
saw
Anderson.
was Detroit, but then I saw Detroit then got I'm not sure. I think
Yeah,
he's in Detroit.
Yeah, so that's what happened first. We got the tweet, Jimmy Butler for Andrew Wiggins essentially, and a protected first round pick. Then we get a little bit more details. Part of the deal, Warriors sent Waters the third, and Heat sent Josh Robinson to the Detroit Pistons. And then the Golden State Warriors announced that they had Jimmy Butler and themselves agreed to a 2-year contract extension worth $121 million. Bosh, this man's going to get paid over $60 million for 2 years after this season. He opted out of his player option, declining that. Let's see here. What
Well,
else do
so
we have?
that's an interesting compromise because obviously Jimmy just wanted to go where he could get paid, right? He was like,
Yes.
number one priority, pay me. If you don't pay me, championships, whatever else, we can't talk about that until after you pay me.
Uh-huh.
So, what he wanted was probably something along the lines of a 3-year extension, probably like 40, 45 mil a year, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But Golden State didn't want to do that. They were probably offering something in the range of like 40 to 35 to 40, maybe 40, and he wanted closer to 50, whatever it was.
Right.
So that's why you saw all the reports of him, telling the Heat and Golden State that he didn't want to go there,
Yeah.
wouldn't resign, et cetera, et cetera. And so the compromise, it looks like at the last second almost, is that Golden State decided, what if we just give you the max, but only for one more year after this one? And that seemed to be a good enough compromise for him to
Right.
take it, which
Because
at almost 55, $56 million a year, that's a pretty good compromise
Yeah.
for him.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that was the main thing with the Jimmy Butler saga in Golden State. They looked to be a destination. Jimmy Butler then rejected them as a destination, as a possibility. Then at the last minute, it looked like they were making one final swoop. And obviously, Golden State tried to make other trades as well. They were linked to Nikola Vucevic. That never materialized. Zach LaVine, he ended up going to the other California team. And then obviously they were trying to swing big for names like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Kevin Durant actually said he wasn't interested in the Golden State reunion. So once that happened, that was the final domino. They were like, you know what, we need to get somebody. So they went after Jimmy Butler. So they made some concessions. I think Jimmy Butler wanted like a 3 or 4 year deal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's what I'm again, like that's what I assume is that he wanted an extension at 3 or 4 year extension, and he, probably would have taken getting less than the max if he got 3 to 4, but not a
Yeah.
lot less. And what Golden
Yeah.
State was probably looking for was, a lot less, probably like 40 mil a year max. Like,
Exactly. But the thing that that's interesting about the deal is that it lines up to when the deals end for Draymond and Steph Curry. And I think that lets you know that they're all in on trying to make this Steph Curry final window work, because this 2 timelines thing that they were trying to do, like draft some young guys while also having like the older vets, like the won the championships, that wasn't going to work. And I think they needed to
I mean,
pivot
it
from
was
that.
going to work had they made, their most valuable pick correctly. Because if Kuminga was the
Yeah.
second best player they got out of that draft haul that they had at the time,
Mm-hmm.
then this would have been fine. Moody as the third best, Kuminga as the second best.
Yeah.
You needed to hit with the number 2 overall pick in the draft, and a draft where Anthony Edwards went number 1, so you can't fault them for not getting him.
Right.
But even LaMelo Ball, probably maybe would have made this whole thing look
Oh
different.
yes.
You imagine that even if LaMelo Ball hadn't worked out as a sidekick to Curry, and they decided he's not ready to win with them, they would have gotten a lot more
Oh,
for
100%.
him than having
Yes.
to dump Wiseman, which was a disaster.
Yeah, they ended up dumping him for Gary Payton.
Yeah,
And
like
then
I feel
and then
like everybody learns the wrong lesson from
yes.
when teams fuck up like this. It's like, oh, they should never have gone for that. No, that was a smart idea to, like, uh,
Yeah.
bolster your aging veteran squad with high talent young players on cheap rookie and second contracts.
Right.
But you needed to hit, especially at the highest level with that one, and
Yeah.
that was the number 2 overall pick. And when they missed so badly with that pick, that's what screwed that up. I don't think going for the 2 timeline thing was a mistake. I think the mistake was picking the wrong guy at number 2.
Yeah, that started the downfall for sure. But I think once the opportunity came about where you can trade some of those young guys for other pieces to build around your core, I think they should have went after that. That's why they won the championship. Well, when did they
I
win it?
really
22?
wonder, because I think before Lowry Markkinen extended with Utah, and there were
Yeah.
those talks, because that is the perfect sidekick that would have,
Oh,
they should have
100%. I
gone
really
for.
wanted him in Golden State.
And I have to wonder, what was Golden State resistant on giving up Pajemski and Kaminga together? Because
Mhm.
they should have done that. They
I
should
would
have
have
done
done
that.
that. I would have
Yeah.
done that in a heartbeat. I wouldn't have thought twice about it. But going back to this trade, uh, ironically enough, Dennis Schroeder didn't end up with the Heat. He was heading to Utah and Cal Anderson to Toronto as part of this multi-team trade. Uh, it it looked like it was a 4-team trade, then it looked like it was a 5-team trade. Uh, then apparently Utah was sending PJ Tucker to the Heat instead, and they were picking up Dennis Schroeder. And then Miami is working through a resolution because Kyle Anderson was supposed to go to Toronto, and then they ended up keeping him, if I'm not mistaken. And it just got very
Well, they sent
convoluted.
PJ Tucker to Toronto, and they paid Toronto to get
Mm-hmm.
off of PJ Tucker. So that's nice business for Toronto to
Yeah.
get some picks for taking on a bad contract. I think that's fairly common in the NBA. I think a lot of GMs do that for rebuilding teams.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice if we had an NBA
If
GM
only.
here
If
in
only. If only,
Chicago.
for sure. So they end up keeping Kyle Anderson. They also have PJ Tucker and Andrew Wiggins, plus that Golden State protected first
Well,
rounders.
they don't have PJ Tucker.
Wait, who did they
They
trade
sent
PJ
they sent Miami took him from
from?
Utah,
From
and
Utah?
then sent him to Toronto and paid Toronto to get off, because he's $12 million, because he was signed with like the
Mm.
mid-level. So he's dead salary basically to them. So he's in Toronto
Okay.
now.
Oh yeah, that's right. They ended up with Davion Mitchell. They
Yes.
didn't just dump it; they got Davion Mitchell. So,
Yeah.
actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Here we go. That's the graphic. Got rid of PJ Tucker and a
Hmm.
second round pick plus cash for Davion Mitchell, which I like
Yep.
Davion Mitchell. So okay, so the end result was Davion Mitchell, Andrew Wiggins, and Kyle Anderson, plus a protected first round pick. That's a
Yeah.
pretty good haul for Jimmy Butler,
Yeah.
who
That's a great
would
haul, especially considering this is a team that did not want to keep Jimmy Butler, did not want to pay him.
no.
This is a team that has to make the playoffs this year because they have a pick that is uh, that will convey if they make the playoffs, and that's okay for them because if it does convey, it has protections on their future picks. If the pick doesn't convey, those future picks become unprotected,
Hmm.
as part of earlier deals.
Yeah.
And those future picks, who do they belong to? I think they belong to, can't remember now. Is it, they might belong to OKC?
I mean, the details doesn't really
Probably half
matter.
the picks in the league at some point belong to
Yeah.
OKC. So
Yeah. Yeah.
probably safe to assume. But yeah, they would have been 2026 would have become, if Miami misses the playoffs this year, their 2026 and 2028 picks become unprotected as part of those deals because those teams wanted guaranteed firsts. So they become unprotected if Miami can't, get rid of their obligations. So
Right.
that's yeah, I forget exactly how the pick this year works, but basically they have to make the playoffs,
Okay.
so that they don't
And
give
I
those
think they
up
will. I
unprotected.
think
Yeah.
well, they'll make the play in for sure. I don't know about the playoffs because it's
Yeah,
gonna
but
be
this helps them because now they get off of Jimmy Butler. They don't have to pay him, and they actually get a good deal of roster improvement. Andrew
yeah.
Wiggins is a good player on a relatively good contract for a good
Yes.
player. And then, like you said, they added Davion Mitchell as well. They added
Hmm.
Kyle Anderson, who uh, honestly I think I like talking about some of the overlooked guys. So this is one of those guys where I was hoping the Bulls would end up with him because he's been really bad. He doesn't fit. I never understood why Golden State signed him. He doesn't fit their style of play at all. His fucking nickname is Slow Mo, right? Does that sound like Golden State Warriors offense to you? No,
No.
he's good as a veteran, like steadying secondary ball handler for teams in the half court to like run offense through. It didn't work in Golden State, and it's a maybe he's washed, but that's a good reclamation project that maybe he just didn't fit in Golden State and he'll fit somewhere like Miami a lot better with the slow down half court offense.
Yeah, I mean, once Miami was trying to get rid of him, maybe the Bulls should have went and called him and say, "Hey, what you? How badly do you want to get rid of Kyle
Yeah,
Anderson?"
yeah. That's what I definitely was hoping that would happen. But yeah, it's overall interesting. So who else is that pretty much everyone? They got Wiggins,
They got Wiggins, Davion Mitchell, and Kyle Anderson. So
right.
okay, before we move on to the next big trade, well, big is it's a stretch, but overall, how do
Interesting
you
trade.
you like
Yeah.
this trade for Miami? So you think this is
Yeah,
a win for them for
great
sure?
win for them. Yeah.
I know we had difference of opinions of whether this was a good trade for Golden State, but they made their big swing, and this looks like their three-headed lineup of Butler, Draymond, and Steph Curry for the next 3 years at the very least. We'll see what happens after that. You're not the biggest fan of this move. You don't
No,
think he
I
fits?
think this is people have really differing like opinions obviously on players. And I just don't get, when you look at fit and you look at what teams do on offense and defense and how people fit, I don't see this. This is a confusing trade. Jimmy Butler is an isolation, slow down, isolate on one side, clear out, have shooters in the opposite corners, sort of offensive player.
Yeah,
He's not a 3-point shooter. He doesn't run around on off-ball screens. He cuts, but he doesn't do movement running off the
no,
ball, right? He's
no.
not Clay. He's not like that.
He did when
Uh,
he was a role player in Chicago before he made the All Star team,
Yeah,
but
but he
that's all.
wasn't running for shots. Again, he was running for cuts
Yeah,
mostly. He wasn't
exactly.
like running around on the perimeter, behind screens. That's especially for a player in his mid 30s. That's a lot. That takes a lot out of you. Steph
Yeah,
Curry's has a insane training regimen to be able to keep doing what he's doing at his age. Um, but to me, this package, they could have gotten Zach LaVine. Again, I know I go back to it because I'm a Bulls fan, but I really
Yeah.
think he fits like off the ball from Steph Curry, where he's not going to be asked to dribble because even their secondary ball handler, they have one already in Draymond,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
When Steph is getting doubled, he throws to Draymond. Draymond makes those decisions. Zach would not be the one being asked to make the decision other than to catch and shoot, right? Or cut to
Yeah.
the basket and catch it going to the basket on a cut, which he would have been great at. I think he would give them more transition baskets that they're sorely lacking in. He
Right.
would add a shooter that teams couldn't leave in order to double triple team Steph Curry, and he would make them pay. He's the most one of the most efficient shooters in the NBA. I believe this season he's having a more efficient shooting season than Klay Thompson ever had, which is insane.
What's crazy is that he's not an all-star this year, and he's having a better season than any of his all-star seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I
Other than
agree
like
with
pure
you.
scoring average. So to
Yeah.
me, I would have preferred to see that. I think that would open up their offense and fit their team a lot better. Now, Jimmy on Golden State, I think is duplicative a little bit of what Draymond does on defense. He's not the perimeter defender he once
Right.
was. He
No.
does more of switching on the bigs and kind of like, you know, defending in the paint. Maybe
Right.
not like a big, but he defends bigger forwards usually. He defends guys, switches into the paint. He's good and physical. He doesn't chase around perimeter guys like that. He's not
No.
what Clay was. So to me, defensively, it's not as clean as fit. And on offense, he doesn't provide the spacing. He doesn't cut off the ball, and they don't really need him to isolate like the way that he does. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. Maybe Steve Kerr will finally design an offense that
We'll see.
that fits the players he has rather than his ideal, which I agree with his ideal, which is what we argued about on the phone.
Hmm.
I like Steve Kerr's offense. It's how I would
Yes.
want to play basketball. But sometimes you have to adjust. You gotta if a player is better in spread pick and roll, you gotta just give in and run some spread pick and roll,
Yeah.
man. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Honestly, you have to be flexible for sure to accommodate the player.
So we'll see how that fit goes. That's why I didn't like it. Jimmy Butler is a phenomenal player. I'm not saying Zach LaVine's better than him. That's nonsense. Jimmy
No. No.
Butler
No.
leads teams single-handedly to the NBA Finals. Let's not get it twisted. But he is the primary offensive engine when he does that.
Yes. And he could be the initiator, especially quarter 1 through 3, or just like switch off with Curry. There's a world where this offense can make sense. For me personally, I like Levine as a fit offensively in Golden State. Theoretically, I've always thought that if you were to replace Klay Thompson, Zach Levine would be the ideal fit if you couldn't get Devin Booker, because he can shoot and spread the floor and play off the ball, like you mentioned with Steph Curry. But he's also athletic enough to like grab the ball if the shot isn't there and attack the rim, because he's gonna have that open space. Because you can't like leave him, or you can't double him and leave Curry, I should say.
Right.
However, I do think that Jimmy Butler helps them more defensively. Offensively, they're going to need some help. They do have Buddy Hield as well still on the roster. Time will tell if
Damn, do
Steve
they?
Kerr. Yeah, they still
Man,
have Buddy Hield. So
all
they're
right.
projected. And he's part of the projected lineup. He's either going to be their starting two guard or their starting three, and Jimmy's going to be the other wing. But yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at with the whole thing. I don't love the trade. I don't love the fit.
I mean,
And
especially if you when you throw Kuminga into the mix, because they kept Kuminga in this deal. Now you're
yes,
gonna play Jimmy Butler, Kuminga, and Draymond together with stuff at some point. I mean, again,
yeah,
fit
that's
wise,
not ideal.
and look how much they're paying Jimmy. Fit wise, Zach is cheaper, younger, fits better, and You could still make another move because you wouldn't have had to give up as much with him, and you could still play.
How many
Imagine
years
like
does
Steph
Zach has left on his contract after this year?
this year and then or next year, and then a player option on the year after.
Okay,
So
so
basically
then,
the same amount that they have Jimmy Butler for,
oh,
but
okay,
with
yeah.
a player option and for less money. And then even after next year, they could have convinced him maybe to decline the player option, sign a longer deal with less money. Like it's to me
So
that's frustrating. And
you're right.
what I really am concerned now is number one on Zach. I mean, imagine then you could have played Kaminga with him and Draymond at the same time. That's why that lineup works better. What I'm concerned about now is let's say in the off season now, when Larry Markkinen does once again become trade eligible,
Mhm.
Utah does entertain offers again. They can't get him anymore. Like that would have been a key upgrade. That would have been
Yeah.
somebody who really fits next to Draymond, especially and Steph. So that's another concern for me is uh, I don't see where else they're improving by
Mhm.
a lot. Maybe marginally, sure, but
Yeah. Okay. So I get where you're coming from, and I see your points, and they're all valid. Like honestly, like I don't disagree with your points. My whole thing, it could have been a number of factors. It could have been like they waited too long and thought that they could get that Zach LaVine trade, and then all of a sudden he was randomly included in the Aaron Fox 3-team trade that not a lot of people expected. I wasn't hearing anything about Sacramento wanting to deal with Zach LaVine and make
yeah,
him the
that was
replacement.
a bit of a surprise that he went
Completely out of
there.
left field. But then also too, maybe they did try, and the Bulls were just like idiots,
Honestly,
and
that's one of the more likely
that's the
explanations
most
is that
likely
they
thing.
they did try and they gave and the Bulls being the dullards that they are somehow thought that the deal they got where they took two bad contracts for $38 million combined for next year and they're only their own draft pick back while giving up another second was somehow better. But
Who knows?
yeah, that would be because you know what? Wiggins is positive value. If Miami wanted to move on from him, they could get positive value again for Wiggins.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, never mind, never mind. We're not going to go into it because that's going to go into
Yeah.
that bull stuff. We'll
Yeah, we'll leave the
transition.
Bulls stuff. We'll
Yeah,
try to leave the Bulls stuff
yeah.
aside.
The trade that happened before the Jimmy Butler trade, that was the bigger name one, was Kyle Kuzma being swapped for Chris Middleton. The Milwaukee Bucks trading Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, and the pick swap to the Washington Wizards for Kyle Kuzma, Patrick Baldwin Jr., and a second round draft compensation. Uh, this was crazy to me because I apparently there were rumblings that this was going to happen like the day or like the night before it was actually like official,
Yeah,
and I had no inclination. I didn't read anything. I didn't see anything. It completely took me by surprise. Do you start Kuzma if you're the Bucks? Because like
man. I guess Kuzma's. I don't know, man.
do you
The
have him come off
opposite
the
of Zach
bench?
LaVine, one of the most inefficient players in the
Yes,
NBA.
very
One of
much
the few
so.
players who I believe on the. I should actually pull up because I'm a Dunked On subscriber. I think I've got access to their sheets.
Yeah, go ahead.
I never log in to see them, but uh, I should for podcast prep at least. But he's had the same inefficient efficiency, like true shooting percentage, basically for like 3 consecutive years,
Yeah,
despite his usage like dramatically, yo-yoing, going up like all the way. But his true shooting has been horrible, like even when he was low usage, and
right.
in LA, and then continues to be horrible. I don't know. Maybe he'll fit with Giannis and Brook and Dame, and he'll get a lot more open shots, obviously. So he just takes bad shots, though. I don't know. Maybe taking Bill's open shots next to those guys will help him. I don't have too much thoughts on this other than on Chris Middleton. I'm sad to see Middleton go. I know that he's been, maybe his knees are just or ankles, whatever it is, ankle surgeries, right? Every single time, every year, I think, uh, and maybe they're done. Uh, he was playing better lately for Milwaukee. He was seems like he was trying to, he was getting some of his creation and his shot making back, and he was a stud, man. Chris Middleton was clutch. I hope I know in Milwaukee they're not going to forget him with their
No.
championship, but I remember this guy when the Bucks first became a serious playoff threat, and they played the Celtics in a first round series, and uh, they were vastly overmatched, and yet they battled, man. That was their like coming out party. And Chris Middleton was so close. He hit like nearly half court shots, clutch late in the fourth quarter with like in the final minute to just keep those games going down to the wire. He won multiple games for them on their championship run. And last year, do you remember against the Pacers? You
Yeah.
remember that Chris
Yeah.
Middleton shot?
Yeah.
God, that was great. I mean, he rose to the occasion. He was a guy who showed up when like the lights were brightest, and when Giannis couldn't hit free throws, so he didn't want the ball in the final 2 minutes, it'd be on Middleton. So everybody might be kind of looking at Chris Middleton's, inefficiency or inability to continue playing or whatever happens from here on out. Hopefully he's able to make a comeback, but he really was a star in Milwaukee, and I think
100%.
it should be appreciated.
100%. It's gonna be he's similar to like a Luol Deng for the Bulls. Like he was such an integral part of that culture of that team for so many different like seasons.
Yeah, Giannis is
Um,
loyal like number two all the time.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, 100%. So okay, for the Wizards, obviously they're just trying to get rid of Kuzma. Let me pull it back up, see if they actually got anything here. Like, do you think? I don't
yeah,
know.
they definitely got. Let's see.
They got pick swaps. They got a
Yeah,
pick swap. So that's something. Uh, I don't know. I don't. This didn't make too much sense for me. If you're Washington,
well, I mean,
if
they got off of Kuzma, who sucks.
yeah, I
So
mean, I guess the move here, the question here is now is like, what did it do with Middleton? I think he has one more year left on his contract after this, and I don't know if you buy him out. I don't know if
I mean,
you
he'll be
then
good for their young guys. They're not in danger of winning too many games.
no, no,
They lost,
especially
they've lost Valanciunas and
yeah.
Kuzma. And steady veteran. Maybe they can rehab his value, and at the next trade deadline, maybe they can get something for him going out, like they got something for him coming in.
Or maybe in the off season, when there's a little bit more
Could
cap
be.
flexibility
Yeah.
with a lot of the teams.
I don't think we can say that as an excuse for not making moves, because there were
No.
plenty of moves made this trade deadline when everybody
Oh
said that, ooh, the
yes.
cap was going to limit all the trades. That didn't happen.
No, honestly, it didn't. It really didn't. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't really like the move for Milwaukee in terms of picking up Kuzma.
Yeah.
He might come off the bench. He might start. Who knows? Regardless, I could see a lineup, especially when they go smaller. They have Giannis at the small ball 5, and they have Kuzma at the 4. So I can see them doing something like that. They can go big with Kuzma and Giannis playing the front court positions, and then either Bobby Portis or a Brook Lopez being the center there. So I mean, it's not terrible. You never know if Kuzma can go back to being like that 2020 Lakers version of himself. Then maybe when he helped win the championship and was the third option, or I don't know, was he really the third
I mean,
option?
not really, man.
I think KCP was more of a third option than he was.
Definitely KCP was way more integral. I
Yeah.
mean, people forget how integral Rondo was in that run. So,
Oh, he was fantastic.
yeah.
So I mean, time to tell. I don't really like the trade too much for either team except for Washington. You got rid of Kuzma. You might be able to get something for Middleton, even if it's a couple of seconds. So we'll see. And you mentioned Washington, and they mentioned Jonas Valanciunas. Shams didn't feel the need to actually have a graphic for Valanciunas, but he ends up going to the Sacramento Kings for Sydney
Not again,
Sissoko.
man. You had a whole pod to practice
It's
this one.
Sissoko, Sydney, something. City, not
Are
Sydney.
we going to rebrand as a City Sissoko hater pod? Because,
We're not
man,
a hater pod. I just can't pronounce his name.
that's too straight now. Yeah.
That's but they
Poor
got two
guy.
second
I have
round
no
picks.
idea what this guy looks like, what position he plays. I know nothing about him.
Yeah, I
I've
don't know
never
if he's
seen
a
him
guard. I
before.
don't know if he's a front court guy.
I'm hoping right now he becomes a legend, because that would be pretty cool.
That would be kind of funny.
Yeah.
But the Washington Wizards stacking up picks, 2 second round picks for Valanciunas. They got something.
Yeah, man.
Valanciunas being reunited with his countrymen and Domantas Sabonis and former Raptor DeMar DeRozan. So a bunch of reunions seems to be the theme for the Sacramento Kings at the deadline season. So I mean, not too much to add there, but quick thoughts before we move on.
No, just Washington. Actually, it's strange to have them have a smart front office, but they do have one now, and they've been building up young players and draft capital, and they're doing what you should do when you're an irrelevant team in the standings. Is they're using their players who have value and getting at least some value for them going out, and taking in bad contracts and getting some
Right.
value for those going in, which is smart. Like you said, they got picks for Valanciunas. They got picks for, they got a swap that could be useful for the Kuzma Middleton swap. Like, yeah, they're doing well.
It's something for sure.
I mean, they
Moving
got
on.
picks for Gafford. They got,
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
so
Something. Yeah. They got
they
something.
got good. Yeah, they got a good deal
Yeah.
for Gafford.
Yeah. Gafford's been good for Dallas though.
Yeah.
Moving on. This is another head scratcher for me. The New Orleans Pelicans have traded Brandon Ingram to the Toronto Raptors for a bunch of guys: Bruce Brown Jr., Kelly Olynyk, and a first round pick and 1 second round. First thoughts. First thoughts initially, obviously, the Pelicans had to get something for Brandon Ingram. He was going to be an expiring contract, the free agent in 2025. They got Bruce Brown Jr., who I like. I like Bruce Brown. Kelly Olynyk,
And
sure.
DeJounte Murray tore his Achilles,
Yeah.
last week. So
they're not really going to do
sucks.
anything.
And they were already like with little shot. They thought maybe with people coming back, but then they had
that kind of like
Murray
derailed their
tear
whole
his
season.
Achilles, and that's pretty much over.
Yeah. But they picked up a first round pick and they got a second rounder as well. And they gave up Brandon Ingram, so they got something for him before they lost him for nothing in free agency. Toronto picking up Ingram. What are your thoughts?
Why? I mean, I don't. They're sort of tanking. Isn't he a little duplicative? Do you want Ingram, who is a semi DeRozan like player
taller
with the
DeRozan.
ball, to play alongside Scotty Barnes? Like, I don't understand that very much. I don't know if that's really who I want, playing like complimenting Scotty Barnes. Maybe Toronto thinks they can sign him to a decent contract and you'll help their young guys, in being competitive next year. And then maybe they think they can get his trade value up as he plays on a more competent team, because he got kind of unfairly maligned for the playoff performance last year when he was coming back off injury. And then when Zion got hurt, all of a sudden, he has, these OKC, dogs on him, and he can't score. He can't do anything. It kind of was unfair for the heat he took for that, because that wasn't supposed to be his role. He was supposed to be complimenting Zion in that series, and he was playing coming off an injury, and he wasn't clearly not completely healthy. So I think he definitely may be able to recoup some value. It's just a weird move to me, but I guess Toronto wants to have a better shot at the play-in next year. I don't know.
I don't know if they're trying to make it a run at the play-in this year. Supposedly they're trying to, but I don't know. I'm just so confused because are you trying to rebuild and build around Scotty Barnes and everybody else? Or are you trying to win now? Like, it just kind of seems like they don't know what they want to do. And it's just very confusing. Now they have to resign Ingram, obviously, because you gave up so much to get him. So imagine if they're unable to resign him, because is he restricted or unrestricted?
He's unrestricted, man. He's a vet. So yeah, you're not restricted. You're only restricted on coming off your first
Okay,
your rookie
so
contract.
then they're running the risk that they might not be able to re-sign the man, especially if he decides I just want to go to a winning situation.
I think they know they can, because there's not a lot of teams with cap space. The teams that aren't going to want Ingram. So there's probably not too much competition they have to endure there. They may have also had some discussions back channel before making the trade with what Ingram's representation would find an acceptable, contract offer, or at least in the ballpark. So
for sure. All right, so moving on. Brandon Ingram. I'm confused what the Raptors are doing.
I'm confused as to why, but I guess they want to.
Kudos to the
try.
Pelicans.
I mean, they have
for getting
quickly
something.
they've got quickly in RJ and Barnes, and I guess they figure next year they want to be more of a competitive team. I guess they want to be what Detroit is this year. They want to be next year. My guess is
gonna have to have some young guys with potential, but for sure something. Speaking of young guys with potential, this is a guy that I didn't know too much about prior to his name being dropped yesterday.
Please don't say City Sissoko again.
No. I'm talking about Mark Williams.
Okay.
So the Lakers make another big move here, and I think this is a really good move in terms of like filling up a need that they needed to shore up after the Anthony Davis Luka Doncic trade. So the Lakers go ahead and trade Dalton Connect, who was a sharpshooter for them, obviously a steal in the draft, Cam Reddish, and a 2031st unprotected first round pick. Oh, unprotected is crazy work.
Yeah, but it's a swap. Oh no, you're right. It's
no.
Sorry. It's their 2031 is a straight up pick. You're right.
Yes,
and then
and 2030 is a pick swap.
Yeah,
to Charlotte for Mark Williams,
which is again more and better draft assets than they sent out to get Luka.
Which is wild to me. They gave up more for Mark Williams in terms of draft capital and assets than they did for Luka Doncic.
Yeah, it's kind of
wow.
It's nuts.
Like if you would have told me they got him for like Dalton Connect and and a protected first round pick, I would have been like, okay, that sounds fair, I guess. That sounds about what you might get. But no, they got a pick swap too, and the pick was unprotected. They got Connect, and then Reddish was thrown in there, I guess, to make salary.
Yeah, it's a lot, especially because I think you want shooting around Luca, especially if you're playing both Luca and LeBron. I would think that
Yes,
Dalton Connect fits pretty well on that
yeah,
team.
yeah.
That would be,
I would have thought that
yeah,
the
I would
guy
have
that they
valued
would
him
try to
very
move.
highly.
I thought that the guy they would try to move more would be more of an Austin Reeves and keep
Hmm.
Connect because he fits more of what you need with
Yeah, I
LeBron.
wonder why are they? I mean, I know they value Austin Reeves highly, but I'm sorry, on a team with LeBron and Luca, like no,
He's
now
a
you
little
should,
redundant.
yeah, you should value
Yeah,
Connect more highly, I would think,
I don't
especially
know.
because he's on a rookie contract too. So.
Maybe
Uh,
they didn't want Reeves. Maybe they wanted Connect.
Yeah,
And
I guess, but I mean, that's a steep price to pay. Um, I know Mark Williams is good, and people are like, look at his size, look at his, his wingspan. Everybody talks about he's got a
mhm.
longer wingspan than Wembanyama. Like, all right, dude, he's been in the NBA for a couple of years now. He is
Okay.
good when he plays. He just doesn't play that often. He's played like
Yes.
what, half of their games. And then do you have the little there
Yes.
was a
With
user on social media who I saw post this, and I kind of stole the little chart he made.
mhm.
But let me credit him real quick if I can find him.
Right
There we go.
at Memphis 25, the Mempire
Yes, yes.
at
No,
Mempire
no,
25.
that's not it.
No.
That's coming from someone else. No.
Okay.
Well, I'll credit him in a minute. But this is his shot making. If you can see like his usage, he's great. He dunks obviously very efficiently. Dunks a lot. A lot of his points off of dunks. And then but look at his other finishing around the basket. His layups, his floaters, his hook shots and putbacks. Those are bad numbers, man. I
Yeah.
mean, look at his attempts and his percentage of layups that he's shooting and hitting. I don't know, man. You would think like you'd want someone who finishes around the basket a little better. Maybe they
Right.
think he just is young enough and is not getting good enough passes down there in Charlotte and from
Mhm.
Luca and LeBron that he's gonna be able to finish better. And maybe
You would
there's
hope
something to
so.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're right though. No, it is. Sorry, it's mmempire25.bsky.social. Martin. So shout out to him
Yeah.
for putting these
And
charts
then
up.
he's got
But go to his defense because this is the more
yes.
important key because this is where LA
Yes.
is struggling. And
hmm
defensively now, on his opponent rim frequency on off percentage, like that's pretty good. Like apparently there people are deterred from going to the rim, when
hmm
he's out there. But their field goal percentage when he's out there, they're actually scoring on him when they do go at him.
Yeah.
Like that's basically in the lower part of those numbers for big men. Those are not good numbers. He doesn't deflect a lot, despite his giant wingspan. He's not making defensive plays, so he's not getting a lot of steals and deflections, and he's not actually he's deterring some shots, which is very valuable. But then when they are actually attempting them, he's not stopping those shots from going in at a higher rate than others. That's a little concerning. Um, Again, maybe they see something that can be fixed with coaching or with personal growth.
Right.
Uh, he does have a lot of potential. I liked him in the draft. He came in the
hmm
same draft with Jalen Duren. I think they had picks 12 and 13 in that draft and traded 12. That's how Duren wound up, via New York and Detroit. And
Yeah.
then they decided to keep Mark Williams out of those two. Um, and he was good, in Charlotte, but he just didn't play a lot, and he hasn't been as actually effective at protecting the rim as it seems like he would be. So those are
Got it.
those are a couple concerning stats, and not as good finishing. Well, I mean, hopefully he just dunks everything because he's really good at that.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
My friend Reese was saying he's got to have a little hook shot or something. He's got to
yeah.
be able to get something going at the rim besides just like dive cuts or anything
And
like
again,
that.
defensively is really where they need this
Yes.
because
Yes.
especially with Luca and LeBron, you need a defensive big man. Like that would be
For
very
sure.
helpful.
All right, moving on. Moving on. We got some more trades to talk about here. This one is, I think, not talked about enough, and I really like this trade. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just a little naive, but you let me know, Bosch.
Yeah.
So the Atlanta Hawks are trading for DeAndre Hunter to the Cleveland Cavaliers for Karis LeVert, George Neon, and 3 second round picks and two second round swaps.
Two swaps.
Two
Uh,
second round
yeah,
swaps
two
and
second round swaps, yeah, and 3 picks straight out, which is good value, man, for Atlanta. No, I think everybody likes this trade because they
Yeah.
needed to upgrade off of Okoro. I always thought the Bulls should have looked into, before Patrick Williams completely
Right.
tanked his value. I thought
Yeah.
that because I still think he's a good fit there. It's just that now he's got, no value left because he just played such horrible basketball this year.
Yes.
But they needed somebody who was a little better defensively and a better at hitting shots at threes. And Okoro just hadn't been getting that done. I would have tried to upgrade
Hmm.
to Patrick Williams, who the only things he can do well are hit wide open threes and play defense. So
And that's honestly
um,
all they need.
yeah, but now they got Hunter, and that's a better player, at least right
Yes.
now. And Atlanta got a nice little haul for him. I mean, Karis LeVert is a pretty Atlanta Hawksy type of player. He
Yes.
fits right into that mold of Mo Williams, or sorry, Lou Williams, and
Jamal
Jamal
Crawford.
Crawford, and yeah, the tradition of gunner
Yeah.
six men for the
Did
Atlanta
did
Hawks.
did Nate Robinson ever play for the Hawks?
No, Nate didn't.
Ah, he would fit perfectly with the Hawks.
Yeah, yeah.
Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson played for the Hawks, right?
Steven Jackson's more than a gunner, man. He was an all-star level player.
No, but towards the tail end, he was more
Sure,
of that.
sure.
But yeah, so I like this for Cleveland for sure because you don't really need three second round picks. You're not going to be able to sign all those guys. Karis LeVert doesn't fit all that well,
I mean,
especially in
shout
the
out to
starting.
him for as much as he did improve
Oh yes,
defensively and
hundred
in
percent.
catch and shoot, because when they first had him, he definitely seemed like this is a guy they need to get off of. And somehow, man, he managed to mold his game as best he could, and he fit really well there. So credit
Yes,
to him for that.
I just think DeAndre Hunter might fit better. He's
Oh,
going to
he
slot
definitely
in
fit better.
perfectly
Yeah.
into that small forward spot that they've been
Yep.
desperately trying to find for the longest time now. So imagine the
Yep.
lineup now with you have Garland, Mitchell, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, and then Jared Allen. Like that's a scary starting lineup.
No, that's awesome. Yeah.
I love that. And then for
And who
Atlanta,
said that quote? The scary hours? It's scary hours in the
it's
East
scary
now.
hours. It's scary hours in
Scary
the East.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the Atlanta Hawks, they made some other moves here. They picked up Karis LeVert, but they also got rid of Bogdanovich. But in the process, they picked up Terrence Mann and Bones Highland.
The
So
day is come, the Clippers have finally decided Terrence Mann is not untradeable. For years, they were
yeah,
just valuing him so highly, I guess, because of his performance in that Game 7 to help them get to the
I
conference
mean,
finals that year.
everyone can have a really good game 7.
Jeez, man, Terrence Mann and how much they had refused to include him in deals was getting a little ridiculous. A good, decent player, but no, Bogdanovich, that he's a good fit there. So good for the Clips.
Yeah, I can't recall. Let me see which trade happened first. Oh, I guess so. Atlanta ended up picking up Karis LeVert, and then they shipped off Bogdanovich. I
Yeah,
like Bogdanovich as a good fit over there in the Clippers. I think he's going to be a nice
yeah,
versatile wing, a guy that's going to help them get a couple buckets, shoot a couple threes. Doesn't
yeah. And
need to.
Atlanta gets a little younger. Gets
They get
could
they get some.
reshape the roster a bit around Zachary Risache a little bit more.
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah. So they definitely pick up some things. I mean, Bulls Highland, man, like what a drop off.
dude, what a
I st-
fall! What a fall
yeah,
from
I
Denver.
loved him in Denver. Then he had that falling
Yeah,
out
he seemed
with
like he
Denver.
played with such joy too, like almost
Yeah.
Tyrese Maxey like the way he was in the court with his speed
Yes.
and his just like smile and having fun out there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
God,
he fell off hard.
hard for sure. But I think I like this for both teams. It's minor. It's nothing too crazy. But Bogdanovich is a big pickup for the Clippers. I think he's going to be able to help contribute in the playoff run. And Bones
And
Highland.
he is a shot maker. Like
Oh
Bogdanovich
yes,
is an upgrade. Let's not get this twisted. Terrence Mann was good there. Bogdanovich is an upgrade. That man can go off. He can dominate a
especially
game.
especially on nights when you're not sure if Kawhi is going to be available or not.
Yeah,
Imagine a 3-man lineup that includes Norman Paul, James Harden, and Bogdan Bogdanovich.
yeah. No, Bogdanovich is gonna feast there. He's a scorer. He's a shooter. He's a pressure moment player. He loves those moments. He loves those shots. They have improved their offense dramatically, and they've improved their upside in the playoffs. Because again, This guy comes through, man. Doesn't matter in the clutch with the shot clock winding down, crazy shots, deeper shots, tough shots, players collapsing on him. He can hit those. He's a very good offensive player, and yeah, he's getting up there a little bit. So good for the Hawks for getting younger and getting some picks out of it. Smart move for both teams.
Actually, the Hawks are the ones that gave up the 3 second-round picks.
Oh, did they? Wait.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Yes.
Wow. I guess they
Yes.
paid to get younger. You know what?
Yeah.
It would save them a lot in salary. So I guess that. Oh, does this get them under the tax? I wonder.
Could be. Could be. But I
They
will
weren't
say
in the
this.
tax, were they?
It might have been.
I'll have to look that up. But
Um,
yeah,
the way I see it too is that they picked up 2 guard guys in Terrence Mann and Bone Silent, which signals to me that perhaps in the offseason, should Trey Young be disgruntled, they might be willing to move off from a Trey Young now.
yeah.
Like,
I think that's been the case.
yeah,
Like,
for sure.
yeah, especially now, like as they're getting younger, moving off of their guys. But this trade works to, even if they keep him. You know, they just kind of
Yeah,
get more assets to kind of build a new roster around him and Ricochet, and if they
yeah.
want, whether they keep
Someone might
Okongwu or
want them.
Capella or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
100%. There's players on the Hawks that other teams might want, and they might be able to flip them for more assets. You know,
I
what?
mean, we're forgetting that the reason Atlanta's plummeting in the standings right now is that Josh Johnson, you know, that
Jalen Johnson.
JLan Johnson. Sorry, I'm getting with Jaren Jackson Jr. and Josh
Too many
Johnson.
J's.
Yeah, it's a lot of J's, man.
Yes.
But yeah, because he had what did he have a meniscus tear or something? I forget.
I can't
He's out for
recall.
the year though.
Yes,
Basically,
he's
yeah,
gone for the year for sure.
yeah. So
Okay. Moving on, because we talked about Bones Highland having to fall off. Talk about fall off for Marcus Smart. They're trading Marcus Smart and a 2025 first round pick to the Washington Wizards in a multi-team trade that sends 2 second-round picks to Memphis. Sources tell ESPN. Memphis creates roster flexibility with the move.
man, look at that pick right there, man. That looks like a Wizards player to me. So sorry,
Yeah,
Marcus Smart, but yeah, that's about where that is at. The career is at right now. I mean, maybe he'll get bought out at some point or something, but
yeah.
I think yeah, good for Memphis to kind of, he wasn't doing anything for what they were hoping from him.
But you gave up a first
I
round
know,
pick to
but
get off of
you
him.
got to cut your losses. They did give up a first. That was, they overpaid to get him. Honestly, they helped Boston get Kristaps Porzingis. They may not have been
Yeah.
able to get him if they hadn't gotten that first from Atlanta for Marcus Smart. But this,
Let's
you know,
see.
they understand it. It wasn't working. He wasn't healthy. When he was healthy, he wasn't doing much for them. And they're
Yeah.
a good team, and they need to move off of him.
Okay. Quick notes here. The Clippers also got rid of Kevin Porter Jr. to the Milwaukee Bucks, so he's going to the Bucks. Indiana Pacers traded James Wiseman to the Toronto Raptors, like we talked about. I can't recall if we did that during the show or not.
Wherever Wiseman and Bagley end up, man, it's this every year is going to be.
Here we
This
go.
is going to be a who he play for, like, you know,
Yeah,
a perennial question for
100%. Well, we won't have to wonder because Marvin Bagley III is being sent to Memphis as part of the deal. So the Grizzlies picked up Marvin Bagley III in exchange for Marcus Smart.
So Bagley's on the former Canadian team, and Wiseman's on the current Canadian team. All right, got it.
Yeah, apparently.
None of us are going to remember that next year.
No. I mean, maybe the Wallop Media guys, you know,
who he
they
play
are
for.
who he play for. But yeah, so I mean, I don't personally like having to give up a first round pick to unload a contract, but you know, I mean, maybe Marvin Bagley could be a rotational like big that they might need in stretches. Maybe he could be a dude that Marvin Bagley's a dude. Kings,
Maybe they're finally going to be able to reclaim famed Wizards draft pick Johnny Davis, man.
Johnny Davis. Shout out to Johnny Davis. Moving on, talking about bigs. Yusuf Nurkic was traded and a 2026 first round pick to the Charlotte Hornets in exchange for Cody Martin.
The city of Misic.
Thank you, Gesundheit.
Yeah, I knew you were going to get that. After City Sissoko, man, I don't want to suffer another.
And a 26 second round pick. So they give up Nurkic in the first round pick. They pick up Cody Martin in return. I like Cody Martin on the Suns, especially if Nurkic is going to be.
You know, he's not Caleb Martin, right?
No, I know.
I'm just kidding.
Well, we'll talk about Caleb next.
Yeah.
But I like this for the Hornets. Another
Yeah.
first round pick. Hoarding some first round
This
picks.
is what you do, man. You take bad contracts from the good teams who need to get rid of them in order to avoid the tax or get under the second apron, and you take picks back and you stack them up to help you build for your next good team.
Yeah.
Every tanking team in the NBA does this, except for one. So yeah, good
Yes,
move. Good move, Charlotte.
for sure. Speaking of Caleb Martin, he was sent over to the Dallas Mavericks. Sources tell ESPN, according to Sham Sharani. I like Caleb Martin on the Mavericks. That's a
Well, and
really
that's
good
not
pickup for
all.
the
I mean,
Mavericks.
Philly got back Quentin Grimes.
Yeah, Quentin Grimes was in return. I'm trying to pull up the exact details of it on here, so just give me a sec. But in terms of the pickup for Dallas and what he adds to the team, I mean, they have Anthony Davis. Now they have Caleb Martin. They have PJ Washington. Klay Thompson's still on the team. Jaden Hardy's still there.
So
Kyrie Irving. So
like this
they
helps
got
them.
players.
This helps. I mean, Grimes might be better, honestly, and younger,
Hmm.
but Caleb Martin, is more of you know, that's not true. Grimes is shooting a lot from three, so that's not quite true. But I think around the team they have now, they wanted more, a defensive forward. So
Yes.
Caleb Martin can guard bigger players, right?
Yes.
And
So
and so that's a difference here.
I think the exact, I can't remember where I saw it. It might have been No Dunks, where they talk about it looked like it was a move where in case if they were they think they can make the finals, so they think they can win the championship with the current roster they have. So Caleb Martin is mostly there to guard a guy like a Jason Tatum
Yeah.
or Jalen Brown should they get to
Just
that
like
point.
Caleb Martin has guarded Jason Tatum in
And he
high
has
pressure moments in the playoffs in
he
the
has
conference
success if I'm not
finals.
mistaken.
Oh yeah, they made it to the finals, so I would say that's pretty successful.
Yeah. Okay. So the exact trade is Quentin Grimes to Philadelphia, and in exchange, Philadelphia sends Dallas Mavericks a 2025 second round pick.
This was originally Philly getting a second from Dallas, but it turns
So
out that Caleb Martin's hip is because he's been a little bit injured this year. He was in and
yeah.
out, and apparently his hip injury is a little worse than they
Hmm.
thought. So during the physical or whatever, Dallas said, what, this hip is not what you said it was. They got the league office involved, and then they flipped that. So the second from going to Philly is now going to be coming from Philly instead.
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, I think that Philly's second rounder was originally Philly's and it's being sent back
Yeah,
to them.
it was being sent back to them. It was about to be
Hmm.
reunited, and Philly was going to be in this draft. My heart goes out to the Sixers fans who are finally looking forward to getting back into this draft after being teased with being in and out of it, and then being told, nope, you know what, you got your own second rounder back. You're going to get a draft pick this year after all, and then having it snatched away at the last second. But I think this is a season for that. They're probably getting a little used to it or tired of it.
So I'm looking here in the report by Tim McMahon of ESPN. Caleb Martin hip injury will be out 2 to 3 weeks actually.
Yeah.
So he's gonna be out for a minute. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't help if he's healthy enough for the playoffs, then sure. But if not, then you just give up Quentin Grimes for the possibility of
He'll be
maybe.
healthy for that. He was playing. I just think like again, they didn't like Philly apparently thought he would be ready sooner, and then
Mhm,
Dallas checked him out and was like, he's not going to be ready for a little bit. So
mhm.
that was the hang up there.
Yeah,
Hopefully he should be able to be back.
yeah. So what they ended up sending was a 2030 second round pick to Dallas to amend to make the trade more fair.
Oh, so I guess then maybe are they still getting their second rounder back?
They
I
might
wonder.
be
I
unless they
hope.
took it away. I haven't seen any like details
I
on that
thought in the
actually.
initial report, in the initial re-report, on the
Mhm.
update, I thought I
Yeah.
had seen that they would no longer be getting their second, but I could
Yes.
be wrong.
Uh, Regardless of the fact, more or less it's a bit of a swap. Obviously, they were trying to make a move in it to shore up some defensive wing
And this is
needs
good
for
for
them.
Philly too. While Caleb Martin was a good signing for them,
Hmm.
you know, Grimes puts up, he puts up more threes at a higher frequency
Yeah.
in the backcourt with Maxey.
My
They'll have to
God, I
rely
forgot
less.
about Maxey and him in the backcourt. They're
Yeah,
gonna.
and now they don't have to rely anymore on Reggie Jackson and Kyle Lowry trying to still,
Oh, Reggie
come out
Jackson
there.
got bought out.
Yeah, so that's exactly why, because they don't need to
No.
do that sort of patchwork backup point guard work anymore.
Mhm.
So,
Hey,
and then going into next year,
mhm.
they get a little bit younger. Again, they shore up that backcourt. So, they're probably looking at like not tearing down this year's team because they still have a shot at getting in to the playoffs, but also kind of more of an eye at making next year's team better.
For sure, 100%. Last trade on the docket here. Minor trade here, but the New Orleans Pelicans are trading Daniel Tice and draft compensation to the OKC Thunder. So the Thunder are taking on the salary of Daniel Tice, and they're getting some draft compensation. Ooh, I mean, that's something, right?
That's good. Yeah. I mean, the Thunder are getting Tice. Maybe they think that because they didn't trade him again, right, before the deadline ended. I don't think so.
No, they
I'm
didn't.
trying to get caught up on everything, but I don't think they traded him again. So maybe they think he's insurance for, if Hartenstein or Chet are hurt or have to miss time or rest or whatever. And the Pelicans, cut salary. So, again, they got to get under the tax. So there you go. They parted with Ingram for that reason, so this, considering that this year is a lost year anyway, it makes sense for them to not have to pay the tax.
Lastly, here before we move on, I almost forgot to mention as parts of the Kuzma Middleton trade, the Knicks were also involved in that trade as well. They send out Jericho Sims to the Milwaukee Bucks. Jericho Sims going to the Bucks. That's a really good pickup for the Bucks, in my personal opinion. And it doesn't say here, but in the quote tweet from Shams, it says the Bucks are sending DeLon Wright and cash considerations to the Knicks for Jericho Sims. Yeah, now they got a lot of bigs now. I mean, they got 3 centers now. If you include Bobby Portis, Brooke Lopez, Jericho Sims.
Jericho Sims is a
I don't know
better
much about Jericho Sims.
center. I like him as a big physical center. I always liked him in New York. I was always confused why Tibbs didn't play him more. So let's see how he does in
Because it's
Milwaukee.
Tibbs.
Yeah, he does weird shit.
We'll
But I
see
mean,
how.
defensive center is big center. I mean, he catches, he seemed to, catch lobs pretty well. We'll see how he does.
Mhm. Yeah,
And not
for
bad
sure, for sure.
for Milwaukee
And
to
then
upgrade their backup.
anything else? Anything else that we might be forgetting, Bosh?
No, yeah, on the Philly Caleb Martin finalization there. So Philly is still staying in this draft. They do get their second round pick back. It's just that they then added the 2030 pick going back to Dallas
Okay.
to kind of
Okay.
compensate them a little bit more. So it's not a full amendment to that trade. So that's good.
Got
And
it. So
yeah, I just had a interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
so the final framework of the deal is Caleb Martin and the 2020-30 pick going to Dallas, and in exchange they send them Quentin Grimes and give Philly back their 2025 second rounder.
Yes, which made its
Okay.
way around the league a little bit, but has come back home. So
That's funny. But
good
how
for
those
them.
second round picks just be getting tossed around like they're Dennis Schroeder or something.
It's nice to see a pick find its way home. It's
Yeah.
cool.
I mean,
But yeah, it's funny. Some saw a couple observations, but yeah, basically, man, Phoenix really screwed themselves. Nurkic was good for them last year, so I
yes,
don't know. I
he
guess you
was.
can't hurt them too much, but then that contract was bad, and he just seems to have fallen out of favor. Wasn't effective, and isn't really going to be given a shot to get back in. Was never given a shot to get back in. I mean,
Yeah.
Nurkic at some point said him and Budenholzer hadn't even spoken for I don't know however long, and
Yeah,
so it
I
turns
don't
out
think
like
they had ever spoken. I think he
I
was trying
mean,
to say.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then to get him, you remember, like they traded away like a lot to get him because they traded away Ayton, but Ayton was considered not great
Yeah.
salary, not a great contract either, more of a reclamation project. So they had to give up their draft pick that year, which was Tumani Kamara, who is excellent now and is exactly the type of player that Phoenix would need. And they gave up Ayton and Kumara to get Nurkic. and now they're having to give up one of those few first round picks that they have, in order to get rid of Nurkic. That's ouch.
Yeah, they
That's
gave
some
up
tough
their
rebuilding.
2026 first round pick for next year. And given the state of the Phoenix Suns, that might be a really good pick even next year.
Well, it's not going to be their pick. It's like it's gonna. I think that 2026 pick is I forget. It's some court. They like Nate Duncan of Dunked On likes to call these Horcrux picks from like the Harry Potter series,
Ah,
because they
yes.
get they get it's like the worst of like two or three other picks that they're giving up, or like the alternate part of a swap or something. But yeah, if
Ah,
I'm
I remember. I remember. That's
yeah
how they were able to finesse that Bradley Beal trade, is they were doing Horcrux picks
yeah
essentially.
exactly.
Okay, all right, fair enough,
So
fair enough. All right,
like they like what they did when they just traded away their 2031 unprotected to uh to Utah, and then they got back like three separate picks that were like the worst of like other teams picks or whatever it is.
yeah,
So
they just like collecting those apparently.
yeah.
So, man, Bosh, that's all I got, man. I mean, obviously, like as us Bulls fans, we didn't really get much to talk about. Obviously, the big trade was Zach LaVine getting moved and us getting a bunch of salary and our own pick back. Talking about picks finding their way home. And then aside from that, they announced yesterday Lonzo Ball signed a 2-year contract extension worth 20 million. So he's going to be worth 10 million the next
Second
two
year team
following.
option. It was a fair deal, good
Yeah,
deal.
I
Glad,
thought it was a
happy
pretty
for
good deal.
Lonzo to get, make sure he stays in the NBA, gets another contract, gets a, he's a great play, he's a good player, and probably like one of the best stories, honestly, in the
Oh,
NBA this year.
100%. I really want him to succeed and be at some point moved away from the travesty that is the Bulls and be on a
Yeah.
national championship contender.
He's just good for the NBA. He's a fun player to watch, man. He's a good player, and he's a fun player to watch, and he's good for basketball, and it's
Yeah,
it's good for us to have him back in the league. And also, it's really important that he is able to play, and the longer he plays, the better
yeah,
it is. It makes that uh, innovative surgery he got, that groundbreaking surgery of having a meniscus replacement from a cadaver, actually having a new meniscus put in. There's somebody, that
yeah,
is game changer. Imagine if Embiid was younger and he could have that, and he could then not be going through what he's going through now. If he could be,
yeah.
a little bit more, like that knee would be more stable for him. This could change the game for people, who have those sorts of injuries. So I'm hopeful that this is a successful career, and that this is a surgery that, maybe like Tommy John surgery or whatever, or the
Yeah,
way ACL tears have become, that players can just bounce back from. That'd be great.
yeah. One can only hope. So we'll wrap things up there. I think that's a perfect time to close things off.
One
Bosh,
one note, we talked about a lot
yes.
of teams, man. We did not talk about the Orlando Magic, who did nothing. And it just, like, why would you, like, look at the point guards floating around? Why didn't they end up with Dennis Schroeder, or one of these
They
players?
might, they
It's
might, they might. Who knows? I mean, and Marcus Smart could be a buyout candidate. Maybe give
Marcus
us a
Smart
pick.
would be terrible there. That's exactly who they don't freaking need. That would be
Wait, wasn't
awful.
he? Wasn't he already on the
In
Orlando
Orlando,
Magic?
no, he was just Boston, and Boston and Memphis. No,
You're right.
he was a
I don't
Boston
know.
draft pick. Yeah, no, that I mean they have a glaring hole for at point guard and for shooting. And not only did they not attempt to make a trade for a major player like a shooter like Kobe White or Zach LaVine or whoever else, or Bogdanovich, but they didn't even get one of these minor point guards that have been like, I mean, Schroeder went to 4 or 5 different teams. It seems nobody wanted him. What is Orlando doing? Like, come on, man, you're sliding in the standings. You guys had a good team. Your offense is cratered, and even with Paolo and Franz back, it's still, the other day was the first day they scored over 100 points, like, in I don't know how many games.
Yeah, no, it's pretty baffling. I don't know. Maybe the Bulls should have called and offered one of their 6 to 7, 8 point guards that they currently have on the roster.
Seriously. I mean, it's baffling. I mean, this one I can't even lay at the Bulls' feet, considering that, like, there were plenty of other teams that could have helped them out, that seemed to be willing to get off of their players and did get off of their players, and the Magic did absolutely nothing. And it's a little disappointing, man. I wanted to see them be more of a threat in the playoffs.
As did I, but unfortunately, this could be a move that could come back to bite them. when it comes towards playoff time and playing game implications.
Yeah.
So time will tell. They were it was very uneventful. They should have made some sort of move. I agree.
Yeah.
But
Something.
but yeah, man. I mean, it is what it is. We're not Magic fans, thankfully. We don't have to worry about that. We have other more concerning, pressing issues to
We've
worry
got enough
about.
to worry about, Vince. I
Yes,
don't think we
but
should be
let's not
pitying the
worry.
Magic fans just yet.
Yeah, no, no. But let's worry about closing off this episode. Bosh, where can people find you and anything you want to plug?
I'll plug ShyCare as I usually do, chi-care.org. ShyCare, just a bunch of people getting together, volunteers, passing out clothing, food, toiletries, heaters, tents, whatever we can, whatever is needed, shoes, socks, to the unhoused population, the people where they live. We don't make them come to a centralized spot. We try to meet them where they are, whether they're passing through L stations, going to, homeless encampments, tents under bridges, people holed up in sleeping bags, wherever people have noted that there are unhoused people, trying to sleep and stay warm. We try to go and pass it out. You can volunteer, you can go with us, you can help us pack stuff in the warehouse, or you can just donate, or you can take inspiration and do this in your own city where you live, and that would be great. So, ShyCare.
Yeah, shad-care.com.
Yep.
Go ahead and check that out for sure. And as for us, you can follow us on social media and wherever audio podcasts can be found. Just search up 606 Universe, spell out the first six. And YouTube, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe if you're not already there. Leave us a comment down below. Let us know what you thought of these trade deadline moves. Very active deadline for sure. 7 total former or current All Stars got moved in this
Wow.
deadline.
Yeah.
Crazy graphic for sure. And yeah, we'll keep you guys posted. We're gonna have our Bulls episode coming up next. That should come out hopefully Saturday,
Yeah,
so
we
we can
keep
go
putting it
ahead
off
and
because we know we're going to go long on it, because it's just going to be, there's
yes.
going to be some ranting, some raving, some crying, some therapy, some group hugs.
A little bit of
And
everything. A
yeah,
little bit of everything.
yeah.
But with that being said, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Later, y'all.
Peace.